Good morning, good morning. This is the 10th episode. The 10th episode. It's crazy. Already 10 episodes now. Of FAFO and Chill, in which the Chainstack Developer Experience team talks about the various things we've been building and exploring in the Web3 space over the past few weeks. In classic Web3 fashion, we spend a lot of time exploring new Web3 technologies and building various tools. FAFO and Chill is where we talk about these things and dive into the world of Web3 tech. Today, we have a very interesting discussion. Of course, this is episode 10. Sort of a milestone, I guess. It's been 10 episodes already. It feels like I was just telling Ake before the recording started. It feels like we just started this a few weeks ago. I guess technically we did. If we're doing one episode a week, it wasn't too long ago. But episode 10, we're just now starting to get into the kind of groove of things. Where hopefully over the next few episodes, we'll start to speed things up and get into some really interesting topics. But today we have a topic that I'm very excited to talk about, which is Ethereum scaling, Ethereum rollups, all the L's. So by all the L's, I mean layer 1, layer 2, even layer 3 in some cases. We're going to talk about Ethereum rollups, Ethereum scaling, base, scroll, all that stuff, everything that's been happening recently in the world of Ethereum. Very interesting topic. I'm excited to learn more about it. I think Ake might know a little bit more about some of these things, especially some Ethereum scaling solutions than maybe I do. So we'll have a chat about that. But before we dive too deep into the topic today, we can kind of quickly do our normal introduction. So we don't actually have our third co-host as usual today, which is David, our developer advocates lead. He's out. So today we just have myself. My name is Ethan. I am the developer relations lead here at Chainstack. You may know me by the name of Tabasco. That's my alias. With me, I also have Ake, our director of developer experience. So what's up, Ake? How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. It's 7 a.m. here in Singapore. What time is it for you?
It is 5 p.m. It's been a long day so far. I think I started everything at 8 today. So it's still chugging along though. It's it's not over until midnight. That's the the Web3 way. I saw this Twitter post that talked about devs taking caffeine to like get through Web3 work, and I think my comment was something like, if you don't build Web3 applications on at least a gram of caffeine, then you're not a real Web3 developer.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Yeah, I had to get up at 4:30 today, just to make it, to this, to this call. And I usually, what's your caffeine intake? To give you an example, my caffeine intake is about 2 to 3 energy drinks, and I know it's bad, but when you actually when I actually checked, online, what the doctors recommend is you don't overstep, you don't go overboard with caffeine intake. My caffeine intake is actually within limits, so I think the medical advice is you're allowed to take 440 milligrams or of caffeine per day, which is surprisingly high. Sounds like it's really high, which is about 2.5 energy drinks that you can take. I don't know, but I feel fine with this. What about you?
I have a pretty high tolerance. Maybe it's because I got so used to it, but usually on most days, today actually I ran out of energy drinks, so I'm running low here. But
so you do energy drinks as well, is it? Okay.
Yeah, I do Rockstar, some G Fuel.
Either. Okay, nice.
Monster sometimes, stuff like that.
Monster,
and usually just buy whatever is cheapest, which is probably the least healthy. But I usually go on average, I'd say probably 700 to 800 milligrams of caffeine.
Oh wow, that's pretty high. That's pretty high.
It can get up to 1,000 some days, if I'm very focused and trying to get something done. But usually what I do is I have these drink packets. I know we're kind of off script here, but I have these drink packets that I throw into my water, and I think they have 150 in each. But that's not enough for me because I'm still tired after that. So I have these pure caffeine pills that I put into the water.
I have those as well. Muscle Tech. I have Muscle Tech ones. 200. That's 220 per. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I think it's 220, 250. And then you just break them open and you throw it into the water, and that's how you get even more caffeine. That's how you can get up to a gram in a day pretty quickly. But that's the way to ship quickly and powered by Rockstar and Dew Fuel. That's my way of doing it. That's the only way that we've been able to ship everything that we've shipped over the past few weeks. And also some alpha for anybody listening over the next few weeks. There's a lot more that we're going to be shipping. I won't say exactly what,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's very exciting. The DevX team in specific, we had a whole episode on DevX a few days ago, but the DevX team at ChangeSec, we have a lot cooking right now, so we're very excited about it. But let's talk about all the L's,
Oh, yeah.
all of the different layers
Which
of
is,
the Ethereum
yeah,
scaling solutions.
which in bear market, the L is usually a loss, right? Take
Right.
an L after an L after an L in crypto. That's been recently the mantra. Outside of the few lucky ones who got the meme coin, who managed to catch the meme coin pumps. But we are in it for the tech, so yeah, let's talk layers. All the layers. I think the layer landscape is really interesting one. There is so much to discuss. I don't think we will be able to cover all of this in today, and I don't think we really need to kind of make it convoluted or overwhelm anyone who's listening to it. But there is just so much to unpack. But in one of the future episodes, we are probably going to have a very cool one, maybe an extended episode where we talk a specific part of the layer landscape. But when you actually, same situation as with anything in Web3, I think there is a lot of confusion going on always. And when you try and look this up online, when you try to educate yourself, you get a lot of online word salad. Everybody's just trying to produce some content on this, and they've been pumping out content on L specifically, probably for the past 3-4 years. So there is a lot of just junk information, and it just confuses people. Confuses people a lot. So yeah, let's talk all the layers. Let's talk all the layers. How many layers are there actually?
It's a good question. I was trying to figure that out before this call. So of course, traditionally you have layer ones, and there's a lot of layer ones that all kind of produce different functionalities and offer different key benefits, and even some layer ones provide direct benefits to Ethereum or other layer one chains. So there's kind of some convolution in terms of stretching the definition of, like, layer one as a definition meets a lot of cases. Some cases even act a little bit more as a layer two, but in essence, when you're just talking about layer one versus layer two, of course, these are kind of the two most popular ones, right? Layer one kind of having everything on this central blockchain, having all transactions on chain. Layer two being scaling solutions, usually for things like Ethereum, that process transactions in parallel on other chains, process information off chain to reduce congestion, and of course, increase scalability. This is a very popular approach to Ethereum scalability. Then, in addition to that, and maybe I can't say I do. I've heard this come up every now and then. Of course, layer one and layer two are kind of the primary two categories of layers, blockchain layers. Layer twos are kind of the most popular scaling solutions. And then in addition to this, there are some talks of even a third layer being added on to layer two. I'm not sure if these are meant to scale layer twos. So layer twos scale layer ones, and then layer threes scale layer twos. It seems like super complicated, but would you happen to know what exactly, when we look at the stack of all the L's, right? L1, L2, and now some of these kind of additional more niche ones, in this case, potentially layer threes. Are you familiar with this term on the kind of technological side of things?
Yeah, I think that's, well, I mean, so outside of L1, in L2, I guess, and even there are different types of those. L3 and L whatever, I think things get very, very murky, and there is no consensus on what, L3 is. So there is some of the, some people are going to call it, to say L3 is the DApp stack, right? But I'm not sure why is it, why would you call it purely in terms of, blockchain consensus and the, the basically chain of blocks? Why would you call it an L3? But people would say that. So others would be more specific and say L3 is gaming. That's one of the things I've heard recently. L3 is a stack of the L3. So the stack, the level 3, the stack is for gaming and all the decentralized, and even for gaming that would mean just decentralized applications or maybe even assets, digital assets. And there would be L3. But technically again, you can stack as many layers as you want. Blockchain network wise, or just a chain of blocks. Because if you go, for example, if you take Ethereum as L1, and then you stack a rollup on top of this, let's say Arbitrum or whatever, and then just for some background. So if you take Ethereum as L1, which has probably the most outside of Bitcoin, maybe not even outside of Bitcoin, the most security in the blockchain space and how decentralized it is. You stack, you put another chain on top of it, which would mean the chain, at least today, would be taking all the transactions on this second layer, compressing those and posting them into a contract on Ethereum as call data, purely as call data, which would be, this is the way that layer 2 is going to work, is going to be implemented, because it's important to note what staking means here actually. And then which means it's not really difficult to stack another layer on top of this one for whatever reason, right? You can have another chain on top of Arbitrum, in this case on top of the Arbitrum mainnet, and just be posting transactions as call does on this layer 3, and just putting them as call data, because it's mostly a simplified version. It's mostly all it does. It just posts call data into a contract on whatever this other chain is, and then I'm being a little chaotic here, but this layer 3 would be same transaction just getting posted on layer 2, and because it's just a transaction on layer 2, is going to get posted on layer 1 as well, right? So you can actually go ad infinitum with those and just be, from the purely technical perspective, this would be a layer 3, a layer 4, layer 5. For whatever reason, you can stack however many layers on top of each other as you want, and it's technically possible today. It's doable. It's very doable, and it shouldn't be a problem. Then, in this example, we have Ethereum proof of stake layer 1. We have an optimistic rollup as Arbitrum layer 2. Then I'm thinking if we can do a kind of striped version of those, and for layer 3 we can do a ZK EVM. Actually, we can start a ZK. It doesn't have to be an EVM. A zero knowledge rollup instead of an optimistic one, just posting call data on Arbitrum, and then yeah. I mean, that's what it is. That's what it is. It will, hypothetically though, this sort of architecture might cause problems when you start decentralizing each of the layers, because today I don't think they are fully, they are not fully decentralized. I mean, it's alright to mention this. It's not everything has to be, fully decentralized right from the start. But for some cases when you need For example, you have Ethereum as Ethereum mainnet as layer 1, then you have Arbitrum on top. And because it's an optimistic rollup, and if you have an L3 on top of this, but because Arbitrum is an optimistic rollup, hypothetically you have this 7-day challenge period in which you can challenge the state. There was some malicious act involved in there. There was a malicious actor, and the state that was posted on the chain of the Arbitrum chain on Ethereum L1 chain was incorrect or malicious, and then you need to change the state. But because there is another layer stacked on top of this, there could be a problem. But today this wouldn't be the case, because it's all, it's not out there in the decentralized way yet. But hypothetically, again, you can be stacking. You can be making this system complex and stacking all the other layers on top of this. But then, so that's technically you can have as many layers as you want. Layer 3 would be yet another chain, whatever chain. You can make it anything. You can even make it proof of authority. You can make it very simple. You can go to chain stack. It'll be again, I'm rambling a bit, but I'm just exploring this with you guys. So hypothetically, what you could do today, if you wanted to do your own layer 3, which will be super fun, what you could do is just go deploy an Ethereum node with Chainstack, then go deploy an Arbitrum node with Chainstack, and then start a private network using the Quorum blockchain, which we have on Chainstack as well, and just deploy some contracts on. You can do something very simple on Arbitrum, where where it be posting the call the transactions in batches. You can do it, some centralized version of this. Just be picking up all the transactions that you do on Quorum, which is also an EVM, EVM blockchain, compressing them and just centrally posting them as call data into a contract on Arbitrum. And if you've never done this, you will probably maybe spend a week. If you know your way around Solidity or just a few of those things, you can do this probably in a couple of days. If you rush it, you can probably do it in a day as well. And there you'd have 3 layers actually running for you. That'd be a fun experiment. And you'd have proof of stake as layer 1, Ethereum, highest security network probably in the world today. Maybe Bitcoin, maybe outside of Bitcoin, maybe not. I'm not sure. It could be arguable. And then you're going to have an optimistic rollup on top of this, and then you're going to have a proof of whatever is probably going to have a raft consensus or BFT consensus, which is going to be your own private network, which is not really private. Permissioned would be a better word. You can have your own permissioned network as Quorum on top of this, and this would be a layer 3. You can go do this experiment. You can write a blog post about this. You're going to be the first person in the world to do this. It's a fun tutorial to do this sort of tutorial, and that'll be a full FAFO kind of cool experiment. If you have some time, I suggest you go and try and do this. So that's my a little bit convoluted or experimental take on what this is. But again, technically, layer 3 is layer 3. But then when you go marketing, when you go whatever, you can wash out the actual meaning of the technical meaning of layer 3, and just call it, do whatever, implement whatever on it.
That's pretty interesting. This is a good idea for a blog post or for
it'll be pretty cool, right?
Running through that, I'm sure you could probably go viral on crypto Twitter if you did it effectively, and if you define this word, because I think you're right in terms of the definition of kind of these I guess purely in a lot of ways ideological technologies in terms of like, we have a set definition of layer one and layer two, and even that can be shaky sometimes depending on, I mean, the nuances. I actually made a LinkedIn post about this the other day, but the nuances of blockchain in terms of wrapping up the complexity of a technology and categorizing them into just a few terms is really difficult. It's hard to do that. So like even there's going to be a lot of variation between layer ones and layer twos in terms of actually fitting the sort of, at some point stringent definition. But my understanding of layer three as a term, actually, I've read some, and you go to three different articles, and each three are going to say it's something different in terms of like what this represents, like in practical implementation. But I think from what I saw is that some people consider layer three as this kind of ideological concept to precede or I guess succeed layer twos, right? Are actually application specific blockchains, so app chains. So
that's a
like
good one.
Polygon supernets, for example, like this is, if some people consider these layer threes, which again, it's hard to like, you start getting in the space where it's like definitions can be a little bit loose, but I think, potentially this is like a good example of that. And, especially, imagine like when you're using a Polygon supernet, for example, I mean, the amount of layers that you're interacting with and are sort of being abstracted behind all this infrastructure, like these different blockchains.
Right.
Polygon is scaling Ethereum, and then now you're using this app chain, which is an application-specific blockchain to make that scalable on Polygon, which is already a scaling solution for layer one. I mean, it just starts kind of getting crazy at some point. But I think with those specifically, and who knows in terms of like, we'll really maybe in 2 years we'll be on layer 9 and we'll be fully abstracted away Ethereum at that point, and nobody even who knows. I mean,
It'll probably is. Then you're going to have all those like certifications and people trying to get into Web3, and similar to what like Cisco and all those crazy like network certifications and topologies have today. And it'll be just very intense to get through all of this, the complexity. But it's super fun that we're just there today, and anybody listen to this, you guys are there today witnessing the birth of all this crazy topology. Just 3 years ago, I think 4 years ago, I don't think we had this. I think Vitalik put charging on the roadmap, I think 2017, just 6 years ago. And we didn't even actually go there because the plans changed. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. So you mentioned Supernet. Something just came to my mind. I think like a year ago, just a year ago, or maybe a year and a half ago, Avalanche launched subnets, right? No, they're. I think were they the first one to actually to put this concept out there? I think they were the first ones. Yeah.
Then you had everybody follow. You had Polygon. I believe Starknet has their own app chains now. BNB has their own. So like a lot of these different blockchains are starting to kind of follow suit with these application specific, sort of solutions for specific, usually games and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then and when Avalanche, which is just super funny story. When Avalanche launched those, we had Wujon, one of our developer advocates, here who just started with Chainstack. He didn't really know much about Web3, but he's a developer, so he really wants to get in. He started with us. And I just remember his first task was to do a tutorial, do a full cycle tutorial on how you launch a subnet with Avalanche, deploy a construct on this, and do subgraph to track this construct. And this was the first in the world to do this, so it gained a lot of attention. That's how early it is. It just was a year ago, probably a year ago. It took Wojan some time, of course. It was later he told me it was super stressful. Shouldn't have put this on him. Looking back, because when when you go from Web2 and immediately you need to do this full like sub network which could be considered layer 3, and equipped with all the tools and launch a contract and do a subgraph. But he managed to do this, and it took him, I think, a month. So that's which I think, the level of complexity today is still not that crazy, right? Anyone looking to get into Web3, if a developer coming from Web2 into Web3 can do this sort of thing in a month, it's we're not at the crazy levels yet, but again, it's going super fast. So since then we had all the rollups launched, and those rollups are going to decentralize their sequencers, and then you're going to have the data available. It's just going to be the stack is going to get crazier and crazier, meaning that anybody thinking where is Web3 today, just get into Web3 today. Get paid decent money to learn and get in early into this stack, so that a year or two later you're going to you're going to know a lot about this stack, and as it's being developed, right? I'm just getting into my usual Web3 excited advocacy, but it's right. It's super fun. It's super fun where we're with this today. So all those, but then so that's all the layers, like layer 2 plus stuff, and even layer 2 itself it kind of goes by default today that it's it's a rollup, either optimistic or zero knowledge. But again, I think 3 years ago, this was not the default opinion when there was Polygon, because the default one, I think, the default kind of concept people would think of, because rollups was a little bit foreign, and to wrap the head around those. And they weren't launched at that time. The default concept was a sidechain, actually, right? It was something else that's already a little bit in the past, right? But it's also it's just fun to see how fast it moves. And this for sidechains, when Ethereum was going crazy with the gas fees. For side chains, what we had two, I think, majorly two different ones, two different kind of categories. One was Polygon, which had two different sets of nodes, different types of node. I think one was built with the Tendermint Cosmos SDK stuff, and the other one was I think Go Ethereum, and one set of nodes was monitoring the Ethereum state, and they had validators in there, and the other set of nodes was actually validating the Polygon mainnet itself. So as you can see, in this way, the L2 sidechain on Polygon wasn't really attached to the Ethereum L1 in the same way that the rollups are today, by posting cold data into a contract. It was something else. It was really, innovative kind of thing. But it was also something that the other chains took and ran with those without even implementing the nodes. Just having a bridge from Ethereum mainnet to something else. And no matter how simplistic or unsecure the bridge was, that was enough to be called an L2, right? And today we're so much further than this. It's really fun. I mean, this tech is just crazy. And then something else, which is what's layer 0, right? I hear a lot of people mention layer 0 here and there. And I'm always confused as to what layer 0 actually is. Just off the top of my head, three different types I've heard so far. One is, I think it was if I'm not mistaken, by one of the more prominent members of the Ethereum Reddit community. It's been a while since I heard this, but it was there for sure, was that layer 0 is the people. Layer 0 is the people who, influence, or, ultimately it's people making decisions, running nodes and whatever. So they need to be convinced of the state of the development of the network, of where it's going, and all of this, whether they go with the with the staking service like Lido, or there are other services, or whether they get to run their own nodes and validate in decentralized network, what type of application, decentralized application they're going to develop, what they actually do with the network. It all depends on the people, and people are layer 0. So that's one of the definitions, or not definitions, but categories. The other category I heard is layer 0 is actually a set of kind of software to build your network on. For example, Cosmos SDK, and Tendermint and all of this stuff is a layer 0. It has no consensus of its own. It's just a set of tools, basically, and SDKs and whatever, to implement your own blockchain network and just support and maintain an existing one. And the other one is literally the name layer 0, right? Very cool name for the bridge. The bridge protocol, a cross messaging, cross-chain messaging protocol, a cross-chain communication protocol. That would be better definition of this. So, what else is out there? I'm not sure, Ethan, if there is anything else on layer 0.
So, of course, when most people hear layer 0, they think of layer 0, no space in between the two words. Layer 0 is in the organization, and to be fair, layer 0 as an organization, we love them. These guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Actually, one of our former DevRels is now working at layer 0, and they create just awesome stuff. Like in terms of the way in which they enable interoperability between blockchains with the different bridges, and even like most recently, you've seen they've created stuff like testnet bridges that actually give testnet coins value through the ability to transfer it across all the way to mainnet, and like they create these crazy solutions for interoperability. And that's not layer 0. That's just that's the name of their organization. But still, huge shout out to layer 0. These guys are really awesome. Layer 0, in terms of when we're looking at the two words, if you imagine layer and then you can even say like the number 0, right? My understanding, and to be fair, I need to understand more about this specific tech stack within Web3, because I spent a lot of time in Web3 in kind of two sections of the blockchain space. And I think most people, especially, and maybe you agree, most people probably are segmented in this area. So this is like EVM.
Yeah.
Right, so this is Ethereum, Avalanche, this whole area, and then like Solana even is connected to that in a way in terms of like community overlap, right? So like, I see Web3 as like, at least where I mostly participate, it's the EVM side of things and Solana, right? These things are, of course, Solana and EVM are disconnected, but in terms of community, they overlap a lot, and you see a lot of people on both EVM chains and Solana. So these two communities and kind of sections of blockchain technology I spend a lot of time in. But my understanding is that people, when you're looking at the term layer 0, a lot of the time people assign this to Polkadot, which is, in all fairness, a technology and a blockchain.
I heard that as well. It's a good one.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, and even Cosmos in some ways. And these are tech stacks within Web3 that I'm not personally super familiar with. I spent a lot of time on other parts of Web3, and actually today I had a call with another big shout out to these guys, Web3 Builders Alliance. We had a space with them a few weeks ago. They essentially, especially within Solana, as well as I believe they're doing Sui now, they essentially educate developers and push people from 0 to essentially creating a big dApp or Web3 startup or something. I was talking to their main organizer, and we were talking about Polkadot a little bit, and it's interesting that community is sort of Polkadot and is in a way defined as a layer 0 as, I don't know the exact term, I think it's called like a meta chain or some meta something, some crazy word that is probably a buzzword or something. But
you mean parachains or?
No, it starts with meta, and then I had it on here. I might actually be able to find the exact word. Meta protocol. Polkadot is a platform that refers to itself as a meta protocol or a layer 0. Now this term and even this article from Moonbeam, which is where I found this term on. This
Nice.
article, they self-admit that this term isn't really understood, and that it's very much exclusive to Polkadot in a way. But layer zero blockchains, I think right now that term sits a lot with that community, with Polkadot and with Moonbeam in a way. So very interesting. Of course, I wish I knew a little bit more about Polkadot as a blockchain technology stack, and specifically where that term stems from technologically and technically. Layer zero, and I think that this is an interesting component in terms of, of course, as like my potentially uneducated first idea here would be like a platform in which layer ones are built upon, which is interesting to think about, because you just have like this continual, like you mentioned, this continual stack of layers until eventually you achieve the goal of layering in the first place, which is in like majority part scalability, right? So this is interesting, and I think, like you mentioned accurately a few minutes ago, the blockchain landscape, and specifically solving the problem of scalability, right? Whether it's on Ethereum or whether it's on things like Polkadot or even Bitcoin, right? We've seen solutions, scalability
Right.
solutions for Bitcoin. Um, you know, scalability has constantly been a problem because scalability, and I know people hate it when the term blockchain trilemma is brought up. I know that this is a despised term in the industry, especially if you say the word blockchain trilemma in Solana, you're going to make lots of people angry. But the idea is that if you try to boost scalability, right, traditionally without the usage of some of these solutions, you'll eventually compromise decentralization, security, etc. Right? So you ideally want to achieve scalability, usability, all these kind of user-facing things with kind of the fundamental ideals of blockchain, which is decentralization, trustlessness, stuff like that. And if you can do that, then you've solved the blockchain trilemma, which maybe that exists, maybe it doesn't, but that's the idea, right? Is that you can achieve all these core components of blockchain that enables ultimately a platform in which people can build applications that aren't constrained by a specific area, that aren't constrained by lacking scalability, so network congestion and high fees, etc. And these things are fundamentally present within Ethereum, for example. Like, go try to do anything in like send any significant amount of transactions or throughput on Ethereum natively on your dApp. It's going to be very expensive. It's going to be very slow. It's not usable, right? So then you have scalability solutions. You have layer twos. You have Arbitrum, Polygon, etc. And you have things that are meant to solve the scalability problem by introducing off-chain, right, parallel processing of transactions, sequencers, etc., etc. It goes on forever in terms of how these work. And then on top of that, now you have layer threes, which could mean one thing, could mean another thing, but maybe application-specific blockchains. And then on top of all this, you have like even before layer one, which Bitcoin and Ethereum are generally considered as layer one blockchains. Layer zero, right, which is Polkadot. I don't know how that works, but again, like this is the beauty of blockchain, is that it's just like
Right.
these things. It's all like super up in the air, like nobody really knows. And the whole post I made on LinkedIn the other day was that nobody. There's just so much in Web3 that's happening, right? So many different terms being thrown around, so many different technologies being made that nobody is an expert of everything, right? Nobody knows everything and how it all works. So it's just like it's a constant path of learning. And I think more importantly than like being able to learn everything and being able to like kind of watch these things change, the more important thing is being able to solve these problems, right? If you look at blockchain and the blockchain landscape, there are still so many problems that exist. Have we fixed the scaling problem? I don't know. If you ask if the Solana community, then they'll say yes, we have. Stop using Ethereum. If you ask the Ethereum guys, they'll say, they'll say no, we haven't. We still need to do these different scaling solutions, and there's these crazy solutions to it. Like, we actually have it on my notes here. Proto dank sharding, which is another solution for actually putting Ethereum into a position to scale layer twos, and then by proxy scale Ethereum to this massive TPS. So, I mean, and we could maybe get into that. I don't know if you want to. That can get a little bit in the weeds, but the solutions are vast, and there aren't enough of them, right? Because if there was already a solution that fixed every problem, then it would be implemented ultimately. And of course, some people are going to disagree with me on that. But I think in general, the exciting thing is that Web3 is in a state right now where it's ripe for problem solving, right? If you look at Web2, like most of these fundamental foundational problems have been solved already. But Web3, that's not the case. So it's the perfect opportunity to actually go and solve these problems, whether it's something as fundamental as scalability, or whether it's something smaller like gaming or whatever, and figuring out where Web3 fits in that. I mean, the opportunity is massive in that regard, and I think just the fact that these crazy terms that we've talked about today pop up, and nobody really knows what they mean. Some of these terms is indicative of that reality. But I think you're gonna say something, Ike, or you're gonna
yeah. Let's explore this a little bit. Since you mentioned Polkadot, it's just some background on the development of all of this stuff. I mean, shards and L1, and also in the past few years, at least the way I see it, which I think again is super interesting. The way it's done, or the way it evolved, which is, I think, Polkadot when it started. I don't remember when specifically, maybe 2016, 2017 they had their ICO. So by that time they definitely already had plans on what they were going to do and why they were starting Polkadot. But basically the Polkadot is layer 0, if that's the term we want to go with. They started with I remember reading their white paper in 2017, I believe, and they were describing all those parachains, which would be a way for this kind of crypto blockchain ecosystem to make it more sophisticated and scalable as well. And then, so that was kind of one of the developments in there, and how they started this. And then I think in 2017, again, if I'm not mistaken, Vitalik put out a few other ideas. One was Plasma.io, and the other one was shards. I'm not sure if shards were actually part of the Plasma. It's been 6 years since he looked at this, but then he put out the shards as the proposal for shards, or kind of something to have on the roadmap to which would scale Ethereum, right? It's 2023, and today and Ethereum shards are not there. Why? Which is again, which is super interesting, because what actually happened after that. Because Ethereum, I think Ethereum is still where the party is at. Outside of Solana. Solana is its own thing, which a lot of respect for Solana and all the stuff that they are doing. There is a huge party going on in there for sure. But majorly, outside of Solana, we talk all the other protocols. I think again Ethereum is where a lot is happening. And because Ethereum is so popular, and because it's open source, and all the most of the tools built for Ethereum, and specifically the blockchain node clients, and specifically the dominant ones that were like Go Ethereum, because they were so popular, a lot of people started launching their own L1s using the Ethereum stack, using the the Ethereum EVM spec, or just the Ethereum spec, the EVM concepts, and straight the implementations using the Go Ethereum. And then because this was so spread, the progress from there was to move from just L1s to tie those L1s into like the concept of L1s using the the sort of implemented stack like Go Ethereum and whatever that was already available, to start tying this into the Ethereum security, the Ethereum mainnet security, as rollups, right? Which actually means is instead of doing the shards, the community in all those, because everybody is so involved, and it's a really fun space to be in, and there is money in this as well, for sure. The community itself started implementing the shards themselves, which are independent independent to Ethereum, but they're using they're using Ethereum for security, which is super fun. Which means the Ethereum Foundation or consensus, the company behind doing a lot of implementation in there, they don't really need to be implementing the shards themselves for Ethereum. I think they dropped it off the roadmap because there is already all those L2s implemented majorly as rollups, different types of rollups, and they just keep coming, right? And Chainstack supports all of them, or most of them. If it's something that doesn't support, it's going to support for sure. So and it again, some that started as shards or Polkadot parachains, in the past, now exists as rollups for Ethereum. But not only that, the development went from there, because rollups, again, as we discussed today, typical rollup implementations, getting transactions by sequencer in a batch, at least today, compressing the data and posting this as call data on Ethereum, which means basically do a call into a contract that's deployed on Ethereum, which is deployed by, which belongs specifically to for example, to Arbitrum or Optimism, and you just put this data in there, and you do this at regular intervals, and you pay for all the gas and whatever. So the very interesting, the kind of how open source works. The fun development in here is that the Ethereum Foundation and Vitalik and all the people involved in consensus, they actually put dank sharding on the roadmap, which is a direct response to them not implementing the shards, because the shards are effectively implemented by the community right now as rollups, but it's costing them a penny, pretty penny to be posting all this stuff as call data regularly on the Ethereum mainnet. And the Ethereum Foundation now has on the roadmap implementing dank sharding, which is a solution to reduce the cost for the rollups to be tying, to be basically posting this call data on Ethereum, which is, it takes time to wrap the head around this, but it's actually for the first time kind of, that I see where the open source is open source software and just open source space works very fast and very effective. It is just very fast and very effective and very flexible. You don't need, to do just a bunch of, like crazy meetings or talk to corporations to change the roadmap. You just see it kind of naturally evolve, and it's just super fun to be watching this. So dank sharding, Ethan, maybe you want to talk a little bit about this. But again, so that's my ground. It is genuinely fascinating. That's what I think. It's genuinely fascinating how all of this is evolving in the space of just a few years. It's insane.
Yeah, seeing what it'll look like and what these solutions will actually turn out to be in terms of what maybe wins not the right term, but like just what ends up being like the most effective way to scale blockchain technology, or maybe scaling isn't. Maybe having just a faster, better based blockchain is, that's the solution that's an approach that Solana takes, for example, with proof of history and, the crazy consensus that they have over there. But I think in general, figuring out what works in terms of actually cultivating an environment that's worth using for developers and for users is important. And I think dank sharding as a concept is a really interesting solution to some of the current issues with layer 2 solutions. Like layer 2s are great, and they definitely scale Ethereum and make it easier to use Ethereum, especially things like Arbitrum, right? And now, of course, they have their problems, right? Arbitrum uses a centralized sequencer, for example, which is a major issue. And this has caused a lot of problems in the past. But I think in general, when you look at it, these solutions to scalability have been in part successful. And then, of course, now you have additional solutions like dank sharding, which You described it very well, right? Giving rollups a way to add cheaper data to blocks, essentially, and doing that through, and I'm going to use the terms that they used here, because I don't want to misrepresent it. It's a very interesting concept, and I believe they actually outlined it in a currently open proposal, if I'm correct. But essentially, the way that it does this is through the usage of, and they use these terms, not me. I wish I understood it well enough to use these terms myself, but they say that essentially danksharding uses something called distributed data sampling across things that they call blobs, to scale Ethereum. So this is a better way of doing it than just like straight up storing all this data through call data. So it's really interesting, like these different solutions. I think danksharding is, in my opinion, a very promising way to scale layer 2 solutions and rollups on Ethereum. And the way their, I guess, prediction for the potential of this technology, the potential of this sort of Ethereum upgrade, if you can call it that, is to potentially scale Ethereum to over 100,000 transactions per second, which is insane to think about. I mean, I think Solana is sitting comfortably right now at maybe it's 3,000, 3,500. And that's, even that's a little bit inflated depending on how you look at it. So I think that number is crazy. So if these things work, if danksharding as a solution to make Ethereum, and this is another term that they use, but making Ethereum a truly scalable blockchain, if this is truly the correct solution for it, and if this ends up reaching the goal, then Ethereum could be the home for actual consumer-based applications, for applications that face developers and face real people. Right now, I don't know if we're quite there yet. I think in some cases, maybe, if you look at some rollups, some ZK EVM rollup, or some ZK EVM protocols like Polygon ZK EVM, stuff like that, Scroll ZK rollup, or even optimistic rollups. Some of them do a really good job of scaling Ethereum and actually cultivating an EVM-based environment that is easy to use, that's approachable, that of course is Ethereum based. So this has been successful so far, but I think there's still a long ways to go in terms of achieving actual usability of blockchain, actual scalability of blockchain. And I think it's not until we hit these numbers, that just massive TPS numbers, like I'm not sure what it looks like right now. I think Ethereum's at maybe it's 30 transactions per second. So
if I started, I think it's about it.
Yeah, something like that. And it's that's compared to the aim of danksharding as a concept, scaling layer 2s, and bringing Ethereum as a blockchain to over 100,000 transactions per second seems like a huge jump. Maybe that will happen. I think that's definitely the goal for Ethereum and for the EVM ecosystem in general, to reach a point in which you can have layer 2 solutions. Maybe we'll even go beyond a second layer. But have solutions in general that can achieve the scalability, achieve this usability, and then cultivate applications to take advantage of that. Because, and I think this actually wraps really nicely around to the conversation that we've had. And we've brought this point up a few times over the past few podcasts, but like people constantly say, why don't we have consumer applications in Web3? Why isn't everybody walking around with, connected to Ethereum on their smartphone? Why isn't everybody connected to Solana? Why isn't everybody doing it? And to reach the point in which applications can actually be built to take advantage of blockchain technology and provide access to the things that the core fundamentals and ideas of that kind of kickstarted this whole industry, which is decentralization that results in trustless interaction, permissionless interaction, the tokenization of real world assets and how that all fits together, the trustless transfer of value across borders. I mean, you can kind of go on with that. That you can't actually utilize these things. You can't truly bring these to larger audiences until you have infrastructure. And infrastructure includes blockchains that are scalable enough and that are actually usable in that sense, right? So when we look at the term infrastructure, that refers to blockchain solving this problem. And then, even the infrastructure that exists on top of blockchains to work with blockchains, whether that's, things like we provide a chain stack, et cetera. And then you can even continue going up the ladder of that definition. But I think in general, we need these foundational components of Web3 before we're ready to say, oh, why don't we have Visa for Web3? Where is that at, right? I mean, well, I'm not sure we're quite at a place in which we technologically can support something like that. I mean, you look at Arbitrum, right? And I hate to pick on Arbitrum. I love the team over there, and I think that they're making something really cool. And I actually used Arbitrum in one of my recent videos, and I was really impressed by how quick it was and how cheap it was. But you saw like during the airdrop, right? That happened not too long ago. The sequencer and all the RPCs and the entire network basically died because of a somewhat significant amount of people that were actually using Arbitrum. And now then we turn around and we say, oh, where's a billion users? Like, do we truly believe that anything can handle that sort of daily traffic? I don't know that we're at that point yet. I think we're equipped with the tools to get there, but this is what's exciting, right? This is why Web3 is in such an exciting state, because we're sitting at if you look at back in the early internet, right? The early internet had a lot of issues. It was slow. It was not accessible to a lot of people. There wasn't a lot of reason to use it in some cases. And there wasn't a lot of actual utilizations of it as a result, right? And then as soon as you start seeing these things, as soon as it gets faster, as soon as more people start using it, as soon as better applications come out, this grows into this exponential, just insane technological explosion. That's the whole reason why the audience and you're watching this video right now is because you have access to the internet that all stem from an environment that looks very similar to what Web3 looks like today. That's, I guess the best word to use would be ripe for innovation and ripe for solving these problems. And I think one of these key problems is, of course, scalability. And this is, the biggest solution to this problem at this point has been all of the L's, all of the layer twos, even layer zeros in some case when you look at Polkadot, and it's kind of multi-chain interoperability layer. And then you even get up to like enabling, like Ethereum as a layer one, enabling the scalability of layer twos, which scale Ethereum through things like dank sharding, goes on, right? But at its foundation, these things and these concepts are really important. And I think it's an exciting time to see everything. And I do want to quickly, before we start wrapping up here, also touch on one last quick point that I think it's a little bit off topic, but this is relevant to actually what we're doing this week at ChainStack. Is that this week, and it'll actually be before this video comes out, so you can actually go back and watch the recording. But on Thursday, we're doing a big workshop with Oasis, and Oasis is a really interesting blockchain, layer one blockchain. That it's called a layer one. And I was actually referencing this earlier, but essentially what it does is it provides direct access from dApps hosted on EVM chains, so Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Polygon, etc., to host parts of their dApp on a different blockchain, on another layer one, in this case Oasis. And through hosting parts of their dApp on Oasis, they can access confidential data. So they can actually store private data on the blockchain. And of course, traditional blockchain solutions are all public. So you can't like throw, my name and address onto the blockchain because it's a public record. It's a ledger, right? Anybody can see that. It's not a secure way of storing it. So actually storing and accessing data securely has always been sort of a problem for Web3 and has barred us from a lot of use cases. And Oasis, and specifically Oasis Sapphire and their privacy layer is what they call it. They call it the Oasis privacy layer. Truly does actually add an additional layer onto EVM chains in terms of it enables you to use data confidentially is what the term that they like to use, but it actually enables true data privacy on the blockchain natively on chain, which is really cool. Sorry, there's some background noise. But this is a very cool solution. I'm very excited about this. We're actually doing a big workshop with them on Thursday. So by the time anybody's watching this, the recording will be up. We're going to talk all about using Oasis on ChainStack, building on Oasis, stuff like that. We're going to get into the kind of depths of how you can actually build on EVM chains, on layer twos, etc., including layer ones, all these different solutions for EVM based interaction and accessing these things, building with these things natively on ChainStack. ChainStack, for those who aren't aware, can essentially be your primary source of interaction and engagement as a developer with these blockchains through launching Elastic Nodes, and I believe it's 25 plus chains now, including now Base and Scroll. Which is very exciting because these are our two prime examples of layer two rollups. So, anyways, the list goes on. And then you have subgraphs and APIs and et cetera, et cetera. IPFS even is coming soon. So the abilities are huge, and we're very passionate about and truly believe in the future of blockchain and the direction it's going in. And we're excited to essentially watch what gets built out on these different blockchains. Right, we're here. We're ready to support builders as they utilize these new solutions. And as more blockchains come out, as more solutions to kind of the trilemma or the scalability problem come out, we're definitely excited to support those chains and enable builders to come up with solutions to these problems. So very excited about the future of Web3. If you can't tell, I think that the future is just going to be insane. I can't imagine what the space will look like in 4 or 5 years' time. Maybe everything will fall. I highly doubt it, though. I think that in 5 years we're going to see some very unique solutions, and a lot of the solutions are going to be built out by the people that are sitting here today and within the space, interacting, and the people that you see on Twitter. A big chunk of these people are going to be those that actually create the future of Web3 and enable an environment that pushes Web3 as a technology into the mainstream. Anyways, I'm done rambling. That's kind of my main idea. Any major last closing thoughts on that, Ike, before we end off here?
No, that's really. I think you summarized it perfectly. But there's just a lot of this, a lot of stuff to still unpack, in all the, specifically in layers. Like Phantom looking to become a rollup, which means, an absolute L1 is now looking to go back, to using the Ethereum security and become a rollup to Ethereum specifically. And what's zero knowledge, what's optimistic rollups, and how Arbitrum is different from optimism. For example, it's optimistic rollups, and with the 4 types of ZK EVMs, and in Starknet and Cairo, we support all of those, by the way. And how Base is different, even though it's built on the OP stack, is different from the other rollups. And there's just so much. So we're going to be exploring those, inviting people from all those protocols as well to our future FAFO podcasts. So stay tuned. And it's just a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, the topics never end, and I said this. The term that I always like to use is that there are no experts in Web3.
Right.
There's no single person we could ever bring on. Maybe Vitalik would be the only one that could qualify as an expert, but there's very few people that you could realistically be portrayed as like, oh, they know the majority of how all this works. So I think what we're hoping to do at some point in the next few episodes, we have a lot planned for people to come on as guests, but at some point we're going to have another kind of continuation of this conversation, which we dive really deep into different blockchain scaling solutions and kind of understand these things from experts in these related verticals, right? So somebody from these different protocols that maybe understands this on a deeper level than we do, and we can kind of get down to the bottom of exactly how these work on a technical level and how these are solving some of these fundamental problems that we outlined today. But yeah, very excited for that. Go ahead. Anything final for me?
No, that's good.
Sounds good. Well, perfect. We do these episodes every Friday. We post them on every Friday. We record them on Tuesdays. If you have any suggestions, if you have anything that you want to see on FAFO and Chill in the future, of course, these are posted on YouTube. The comments are totally open. And also, you can contact us at TradeSecHQ on Twitter. My Twitter is at TabascoWeb3, and Aix is at AkeIbear. You can, I believe it's also on, in the intro, you can see our Twitter handles on a banner down here. So feel free to reach out if you want to talk about FAFO and Chill or really anything related to blockchain technology, blockchain scaling, Web3 infrastructure, anything like that. Always very happy to talk. Anyways, you can check out this is the 10th episode. We posted on YouTube. You can check out the 11th episode next week on the same playlist on next Friday. But I think that's about it. Thank you, Ake, and looking forward to episode 11 next week.